We've gathered to discuss a very important topic, not just for our aging community, but also for generations planning for retirement and for those who won't be retiring for several decades. Today's hearing will focus on the beneficial impact of purpose in the lives of our seniors. I think that we'd all say that, right? We all want to have purpose. And what we can do as elected officials to help foster a purpose-filled life for our aging constituents. We are lucky to be joined by expert witnesses who can speak to the impact of keeping seniors engaged in their communities through business, education, and volunteering, and how aging Americans who remain engaged with purpose-driven lives create benefits for themselves and our economy. Purpose and fulfillment are powerful forces that enrich families, strengthen our communities, and support the health and longevity of our nation and its people. Having a purpose is an essential part of the American dream. It has long been an indicator of both mental and physical well-being across all age groups. Purpose can be found in many things, including parenting, caring for loved ones, creating a business, and paid or volunteer work. But for seniors, many of whom are adjusting to retirement and life as empty nesters, purpose can sometimes seem hard to find. However, we should see this phase of life as a new chapter, one where older Americans are empowered to stay active, pursue passions, and give back in ways that matter to them, all while reaping the rewards of connection, community, and better physical and mental well-being. Here's the reality for a lot of folks preparing for retirement. While we hope that every American spends their working years working their dream jobs, that's not always the case. Millions of Americans have great jobs, they save up for retirement, and they look forward to chasing the dreams that they might put on pause in their golden years of retirement. What I want this committee to think about today is how do we make sure that every American retiree can live their dreams in their older years? How do we make sure they can take that course at the local college that they've been wanting to take for too long? How do we make sure they can start that coffee shop or bookstore or bike shop they've always dreamed about? How do we make sure folks stay connected with their communities as they age and create value not only for themselves by keeping purpose in their lives, but also help mentor the next generation of leaders, coach the next generation of small business owners, and pass along their years of wisdom and experience in the process? Research shows that older adults who remain engaged, whether through volunteering, mentoring, or taking on new responsibilities, experience greater physical health, mental resilience, and life satisfaction. Community involvement, lifelong learning, and cross-generational connection are not just beneficial for the individuals involved, they foster a society where every generation thrives. Like I said before, for some, it will be taking a class or a course to explore an area of interest, volunteering in the community, or dedicating time to pursue a new hobby. But for many seniors, purpose will be found in continuing to work in some capacity. This could be in their previous business, as a new part-time employee at a place they enjoy frequenting, or even branching out and starting something new. We need to remove the red tape that hampers or discourages older Americans from continuing work or starting new businesses or careers. We also need to ensure we're removing regulations and creating an economic environment that fosters flourishing and keeps inflation down. We need to ensure that older Americans and future generations can face retirement with a sense of financial security and not a fear of inflation outpacing their nest egg. This way, seniors are only working if they want to, not because they have to. The only way to ensure this is to get the government out of the way. We did this in Florida by cutting taxes and costly and unnecessary regulations. We managed to turn the economy around, making it a beacon for businesses and those wanting a full and purposeful life. During my 8 years as governor, we cut taxes more than 100 times and slashed more than 5,000 burdensome regulations. We cut the time it took to get your license or permit from the state of Florida from weeks to days. Florida businesses added 1.7 million jobs. We paid down more than $10 billion of our debt, and we managed to increase the efficiency of government to provide additional services for our citizens and our state, including for our seniors. Because of these policies, Florida is well known as a place that thousands and thousands of retirees flock to every year, especially this time of year, escaping less financially hospitable climates. In Florida, their dollars go farther, and they have communities and opportunities to experience connection and fulfillment. Cutting taxes and creating a freedom-loving environment allows our senior citizens to thrive and our retired citizens to enjoy the retirement that they work so hard for. It allows our aging constituents the freedom and stability to pursue their passions and build a life of purpose and fulfillment. I look forward to a productive and meaningful conversation on this important topic. Now, I'd like to recognize the ranking member from New York, Senator Gillibrand, for her opening statement.
Thank you, Chairman Scott, and thank you for the witnesses. Older adults have tremendous wisdom, work ethic, skills, and they really do contribute to the economy. This was certainly the case with one of my former staffers. I had a staffer named Jerry Shapiro who worked for Secretary Clinton when she was the senator and then worked for me when I became the senator. Jerry worked well into her 80s, I think maybe even her 90s, for me as the head of our Westchester regional office. She was the resident expert on the nuclear facility. She took all the meetings about Indian Point. She was one of the most knowledgeable, thoughtful, and wise leaders we had in our office. So I know no matter what someone's age is, they can still contribute meaningfully to the work of any organization, any community, and any company. Many people want to return to work for mental stimulation, for community involvement, but too many people returning to work is also a financial necessity. This is especially true for 42% of private sector employees who do not have access to employer retirement plans and 44% who do not participate regardless. Another factor compounding this financial need is the reality that many people step back from working and saving to care for children or aging parents. Today, you will hear about the Senior Community Service Employment Program, or CSEP. CSEP is an Older Americans Act program that helps older adults who face the most pressing barriers to employment, such as those who are homeless or have a disability, make sure that they find meaningful work that they enjoy. CSEP does fantastic work to train and place older adults in meaningful employment. It also serves as another reminder about why passing the Older Americans Act reauthorization is so important. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses today and the importance of CSEP program and the incredible contributions that older adults clearly provide in our workforce.
Thank you, Ranking Member. I'd now like to introduce our first witness. John Taffer is a renowned entrepreneur, hospitality expert, television personality with nearly 4 decades of experience transforming businesses and revitalizing communities. As the host of the hit series Bar Rescue, Mr. Taffer has become a household name for his hands-on approach to helping struggling businesses reach their full potential. Beyond his business acumen, John is deeply committed to community engagement and philanthropy. Through his ventures such as Taffer's Tavern, he has championed initiatives that support veterans and local nonprofits whose primary goal is to make their communities a better place to live and work. He is a living proof that business and community involvement in your senior years is a path to power of purpose. His insights and experience are invaluable for our discussion here today. Thank you for being here. You may begin your testimony.
Chairman Scott, Ranking Member, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. It's an honor to speak with you on a topic that's not only timely. I'm sorry, shall I start again?
Yes, please.
Chairman Scott, Ranking Member Gillibrand, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. It's an honor to speak with you on a topic that's not only timely, but personal, aging with purpose. I started in hospitality in 1973 as a bartender at Barney's Beanery in Hollywood, California. 5 years later, I was running the Troubadour nightclub where legends took the stage and music history was made. By the 1980s, I was operating my own bar, and since then, I've owned 17 different hospitality businesses. These days, I'm perhaps known as the executive producer and host of Bar Rescue. What I do on that show is really about one thing: helping people find their purpose again, often when they've lost all hope. I've been fortunate to work with hundreds of business owners on Bar Rescue, many of whom were hanging on by a thread, financially, emotionally, and many times both. What turns things around for them isn't just better finances or improved operations. It's when people reconnect with a sense of purpose, when they remember why they started and who they're doing it for. And it doesn't just apply to business owners, it applies to all of us, especially as we age. I've seen firsthand the moment when a senior regains a sense of purpose. I change the lives of seniors often. Oh, I lost my spot here. Thank you, Rick. I've been fortunate to work with hundreds of business owners on Bar Rescue, as I say, who've been hanging on by a thread. And it doesn't just apply to business owners. I've seen firsthand the moment when a senior regains a sense of purpose. I change the lives of seniors so often, whether it's through my show, mentorship programs, volunteer work, or even rejoining the workforce. When they see hope and feel accomplishment, they light up. Their posture changes. Their eyes light up. Everything about them changes in all of their mannerisms and outlooks. Their energy, commitment, and attitude often rivals employees half their age. So many people lose purpose in phases. First, the kids leave home. Then later, they retire. Maybe they lose their home. They stop mowing their lawn. Without the structure of a job, coworkers, or daily goals, they're left unanchored. We spend decades striving, raising families, building careers, solving problems, and suddenly that drive doesn't have anywhere to go. It disappears. But when even a small sense of accomplishment or a chance to help someone re-enters their lives, when they become part of a team again or offer guidance to someone just starting out, it's powerful. It changes lives, and I've seen it hundreds of times. And in some cases, it extends those lives. This isn't just anecdotal. Research shows people who have a sense of purpose live longer, healthier lives. Purpose improves mental health, physical health, and overall quality of life. And seniors are a massive, often overlooked reservoir of knowledge, skill, and mentorship just waiting to be activated. In hospitality, for example, immigrant business owners account for approximately 40% of the industry. They're often self-taught, operating with passion, but little formal business training. Imagine pairing these owners with retired professionals who spent their careers managing teams, overseeing logistics, or running companies. This is a win-win. The business gets expert advice, the seniors get purpose, respect, and a chance to make an impact. I applaud the work already being done by the Small Business Administration and local chambers of commerce to support mentorship, but the demand far exceeds the supply. SCORE, the Service Corps of Retired Business Executives, is a good example, which could use more resources. We need to make it easier and more rewarding for seniors to step back into these roles, or even part-time or volunteer basis. The strength of this country isn't found in a boardroom. Nope, it's not even found here in the Senate. I dare to say it's found in the 34 million small businesses across America that are part of their communities, that provide purpose, and in the millions of experienced Americans who are ready to contribute, if only we give them the opportunity. Purpose is what gets us up every morning, and everyone deserves to feel that purpose, whether you're 22 or 72. Helping others gives me purpose. Seeing dreams come back to life when people think all is lost is one of the most meaningful things I've done in my career. On TV, it may look like I have all the answers, but I'm still learning every day. What I do have is 40 years of hard-earned lessons, and I'm here today to share what I've learned, that age is not the end of value. It's the multiplier of it. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. We all like your show.
Thank you.
Also from the great state of Florida, I'd like to introduce Dr. Paul Broadie. He's been the president of Santa Fe College in Gainesville, Florida since February 2020. Throughout his career, he has been recognized for his unwavering commitment to student success, innovation, and community engagement. Under his leadership, Santa Fe College has continued its tradition of academic excellence and has expanded its reach as an institution for both academic and workforce education programs. His vision for Santa Fe College is rooted in the pillars of student success, institutional growth, innovation, and meaningful partnerships. His leadership is marked by a deep belief in the transformative power of education and a commitment to shattering barriers that impede student success. Thank you for being here, and please begin your testimony.
Thank you. Thank you. Chairman Scott, Ranking Member Gillibrand, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today, and thank you for centering this topic on an area that deeply resonates with the work that we do at Santa Fe College and community colleges across the nation. I want to thank Senator Scott and Senator Moody for their ongoing commitment to expanding educational opportunities in Florida. The Florida Public University and College System has been ranked #1 in the nation for the past 9 years. Our state has kept tuition low and outcomes high, and our community colleges have played a vital role in ensuring that learning remains accessible at every age and every stage of life. At Santa Fe College and at our community colleges across the country, Older adults are not simply participants in lifelong learning. They are contributors to the workforce, they're mentors, they're role models, and they are tremendous sources of wisdom for the students and the institutions around them. Last year alone, more than 90,000 Americans aged 50 and older earned a degree or certificate from a community college. That reflects a powerful truth. Older adults want to keep learning. They want to remain engaged, and they want to stay connected to a changing world. Community colleges are uniquely positioned to support these individuals. At Santa Fe College, more than 1,200 of our degree-seeking students are over the age of 40. They are enrolled in programs such as health sciences, IT, the trades, short-term certifications, and apprenticeship programs. At our business incubators and business incubators across the nation, community colleges are housing older Americans who are exploring how to turn their passions into businesses. At Santa Fe College, we currently have 11 entrepreneurs in their 40s, 50s, and 60s planning to launch a new business from our business incubator. Stories like these are not rare. They are part of the community college mission. Our commitment to older adults also includes programs that help families and those experiencing life transitions. Santa Fe College's workforce award-winning program, ACB Excel, provides a two-generation model where we target unemployed and underemployed individuals who are mostly over the age of 40, and we provide them with short-term rapid credentialing so that they can thrive in the workforce. These individuals, over the years, we've done it 4 years in a row, and the job placement rate has been 100%. That provides family stability for these individuals. Another cornerstone of our efforts are programs like our Displaced Homemaker program. Over the past 40 years, we've put 4,500 individuals into our Displaced Homemaker program and allowed them to re-enter the workforce after the death of a spouse, a divorce, or a major event. Programs like this provide an economic pathway to stability. Nationally, 63% of our veteran students are age 30 or older. Santa Fe College and colleges across the nation provide vital avenues for veterans to transition from military service to civilian careers. Beyond degrees, colleges across the nation are offering a wide array of non-credit community education courses that help older adults learn new skills, explore hobbies, and start new businesses. Nearly 65% of our community education participants are over the age of 50. Florida and many other states also offer the opportunity for residents age 60 and older to audit academic courses free of charge. These students receive high access to quality instruction without a financial barrier. We also partner with retirement communities and assisted living centers to bring educational experiences directly into the facilities for the older learners. And then our older adults, they volunteer on our campuses, they serve on our advisory boards, and they volunteer to teach at our institutions. As this committee considers the impact of seniors in today's economy, I encourage you to continue recognizing and investing in the vital role that community colleges play. We're the most accessible point of entry into higher education. We are local, we are affordable, we are flexible, and we are deeply connected to the communities that we serve. With a modest investment in community colleges, we can scale programs that support workforce reentry, reskill individuals, enable individuals to launch new careers, improve mental engagement, reduce social isolation, and promote lifelong learning. Chairman Scott, Ranking Member Gillibrand, and members of the committee, when we invest in lifelong learning, we strengthen our workforce and we build communities where every individual, regardless of age, has the opportunity to learn, contribute, and flourish. Thank you for your time and your continued commitment to America's older adults. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. So, Santa Fe has been really successful for a long time. So, Jackson Sasser did a good job, and you're doing a great job. So, Now I'd like to welcome back before the committee Rachel Greszler. She is a nationally recognized expert on workforce, retirement, and fiscal policy. She's a senior research fellow at the Heritage Foundation. She has spent over a decade analyzing and advising on issues such as fiscal policy, pensions, and labor policy. Before joining Heritage in 2013, she served as a senior economist for the Joint Economic Committee of Congress for 7 years. Her research is marked by a commitment to promoting economic growth, individual freedom, and fiscal responsibility. Her expertise and passion for practical, people-focused solutions make her an invaluable resource for today's discussion on the role of purpose, responsibility, and engagement in later life. Thanks for being here, and look forward to your testimony.
Thank you, Chairman Scott, Ranking Member Gillibrand, and members of the committee. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I would like to focus on 3 points in my remarks. First is that demographic shifts mean that older Americans are increasingly vital contributors to our economy. Second, cultural ails cry out for older generations to impart their wisdom, judgment, and resilience on younger generations. And third, policymakers should make it easier for older Americans to remain engaged in meaningful activities. Older Americans currently make up a greater share of the population and of the workforce than ever before. And that trend will continue amidst a declining fertility rate, rising life expectancies, and the aging of the baby boomers. By 2034, there will be, for the first time in history, more seniors in America than there are children. The good news is that older Americans' labor force participation has been rising, and because of health improvements, as well as less physically demanding jobs, studies show that there's room for even greater expansion. When I think about aging with purpose, I think about a gentleman named Clement Troutman. Clement had a long and successful career in the Navy and then as a defense contractor. Instead of retiring early, Clement decided at age 60 to pursue his dream of owning his own business, and he opened a tropical smoothie cafe. Having turned 67 on Monday of this week, Clement now operates that cafe, which is one of the chain's most successful stores, alongside his daughter, and he also opened 2 more stores in 2025. Now, these stores are clearly improving the economy, but equally important is that Clement's continued engagement is improving people's lives. I can't give justice to the passion and the joy that Clement has for his employees or the positive impact that I imagine he's having on them, other than to say, I wish that my 2 teenage sons could be working for him. Clement actually says he doesn't have employees, rather he has team members. They're his dream team. And whether they are high schoolers working part-time or single parents providing for their families, Clement sits down twice a year with each of his team members to give them feedback on their work and see how he can help them to reach their goals. This influence of older generations setting standards and mentoring younger ones is a prescription for reversing some of society's most troubling trends. A recent Understanding America study revealed the single biggest decline of any character trait in recorded history, and that decline is in conscientiousness among younger Americans ages 16 to 39. Younger people today are more careless and distracted, they're less tenacious and resilient, they make fewer commitments, and they often fail to follow through on the ones that they do make. There are also 4 million fewer young people working today than there were in 2000. Perhaps more than ever, younger Americans need to engage with and learn from older Americans. And while policymakers can't force these continued connections, they can remove obstacles that make it harder for older Americans to stay engaged. One way to do that is by eliminating Social Security's retirement earnings test. This little-known and outdated earnings test effectively takes away $1 in Social Security benefits for $2 in every earnings over $23,000 per year if those individuals are under age 67. Now, that can lead to marginal tax rates as high as 84% on middle-income seniors, which, not surprisingly, causes many of them to work less than they would otherwise choose to. Eliminating the earnings test would increase employment, increase incomes and economic output, and it would boost tax revenues and actually improve Social Security solvency. It would also eliminate all the confusion that seniors face with this test, and it would make the Social Security Administration's job a lot easier. This could also offer a rare bipartisan solution. After all, the last time that Congress addressed the earnings test in 2000, they passed a fully bipartisan bill. The Modern Worker Empowerment Act is another bill that would make it easier for seniors to transition from traditional employment into flexible contract-based work. And Senator Scott's Health Freedom Accounts proposal would allow individuals, including seniors, to directly receive federal health care subsidy and health savings accounts that they own and that they can use for future health care costs instead of that money going to insurers, even if they don't spend it on health care. Nothing I'm advocating requires any more or any less government spending. By simply removing existing barriers, policymakers can make it easier for seniors to strengthen the economy and the fabric of society. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Great job. Now I'd like to recognize the ranking member, Gillibrand, to introduce the next witness.
Thank you, Chairman Scott. I want to move to introduce our next witness, Christine Osasu. Ms. Osasu has been director of the Senior Community Service Employment Program at Legacy Link in Oakwood, Georgia for the past 3 years, where she champions economic opportunity and workforce inclusion for older adults across Georgia. Ms. Osasu expanded Legacy Link's reach through targeted digital empowerment programs, helping older adults build essential technology skills for today's job market. Previously, she was the Director of Strategic Marketing Communications Grant Development at Habitat for Humanity of Hall County. Ms. Osasu, you may begin your testimony.
Chairman Scott, Ranking Member Gillibrand, and distinguished members of the committee, thank you for this opportunity. It is a privilege afforded to very few to speak before this esteemed body, and I do so with both deep gratitude and a profound responsibility to the seniors in my community. Their stories deserve to be heard, and I'm honored to share a few of them with you today. My name is Christine Osasu, and for the past 10 years, I have served Georgia's most vulnerable populations, first at the Habitat for Humanity, and for the last 4 years as the director of the Senior Community Service Employment Program at the Legacy Link, a nonprofit area agency on aging. Our CSEP program serves 107 counties as a proud sub-grantee of the National Council on Aging. Today, I'm here to share how CSEP has transformed lives, empowering older adults to re-enter the workforce, reclaim their confidence, affirm their value, pay taxes, and take meaningful steps towards self-sufficiency. I'm also here to share the devastating impact of the 4.5-month funding pause, a crisis that left nearly 30,000 seniors across the country in limbo, without income, structure, or support. I'm grateful to Ranking Member Gillibrand for leading a group letter addressing the funding delay, and to Chairman Scott and Ranking Member Gillibrand for their bipartisan efforts to reintroduce the Older Americans Act reauthorization. CSEP, authorized under the OAA, is a federally funded job training program for low-income seniors age 55 and up. It operates much like a paid internship, providing seniors hands-on training at nonprofit and government agencies. Host agencies gain skilled, dedicated workers at no cost, many of whom transition into permanent roles. Investing in seniors means investing in experience, reliability, and resilience. Seniors are valuable, capable members of the workforce who enrich every organization they join. When given the opportunity, these older workers support themselves with dignity, reducing reliance on public assistance. Mrs. Plant, age 59, shared her story. After losing my husband to COVID in 2020, I became homeless, bouncing between shelters and motels. CSEP helped me stabilize my life. It allowed me to cover basic needs, pursue training in medical coding, and give back by serving meals at the soup kitchen. Without it, I'd be at risk of losing everything again. The critical role of CSEP was apparent this year. The Department of Labor's delay in releasing CSEP funds furloughed thousands of participants and dismantled the program's infrastructure nationwide. The participants who faced this leave without pay suffered through missed meals, skipped medications, unstable housing, grandchildren going without school supplies, and growing uncertainty about the future. especially as they were not eligible for unemployment. And we're still rebuilding from this setback. To some, a $7.25 an hour training wage may seem insignificant, but for someone surviving on less than $1,600 per month, this paid training is a bridge to financial security. A short while into the pause, an undeliverable letter led to an unexpected heartbreak. When I called the participant to verify his address, he said, "Miss Christine, I wish I could give you an updated address, but I don't have one. I couldn't pay for my housing. I've maxed out my time in the shelter, and now I'm living in a tent." Regardless of income, seniors face persistent age discrimination in the workforce. Imagine applying for a job without an email or computer skills, a reality for many seniors. CSEP provides tools and training to overcome those barriers. Last year, we launched a digital empowerment program giving participants tablets and tech training, opening doors to jobs and independence. CSEP delivers a strong return on investment by preparing seniors for meaningful employment, benefiting not just the individual, but society at large. Beyond financial security, CSEP reduces social isolation and boosts mental and physical health, creating healthy, engaged older adults, a vital asset for our economy. With the right tools and opportunities, seniors don't just participate, they lead, mentor, and multiply impact. CSEP is the key to stronger businesses, reduced public spending, and a more inclusive and resilient workforce. Thank you for your commitment to our seniors. I urge you to remain diligent in the fight for a better world for older Americans, because we are all aging and we deserve to age well.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to start with questions with Senator Moody.
Thank you, Chairman Scott. Ranking Member Gillibrand, you have done such a great job of holding these hearings and making them relevant to the issues that seniors are facing today, and I commend you for that. I don't know that the Aging Committee has ever been this active, and I think it's fabulous. Coming from the Silver State, the great free state of Florida, Senator Scott and I are grateful, and we're getting a lot out of these hearings. Thank you to our amazing witnesses here today. I will note that 2 of them are Floridians, one more recent than the other, but certainly 2 are Floridians. And I wanted to start talking about a stat that workers ages 55 or older have been the fastest growing age group in the labor force for more than 2 decades, making up 24% of the U.S. workforce in 2022, and they're going to continue to be a vibrant part of our workforce. I don't think this is changing anytime soon, as we heard from one of our witnesses who provided some great stats. Some never left the workforce. I think we heard testimony of a specific case where they went straight from retiring from a defense contractor into owning a tropical smoothie. They never leave. There's never a break. And others are trying to re-enter the workforce. Some will face barriers to that re-entry. We're hearing from institutions like Santa Fe Community College or State College to talk about how they're assisting in filling those learning gaps or helping retrain or reskill people to enter back into the workforce and offer training for older adults. And while older adults can obtain the necessary skills to succeed in the workforce, they can find employment, expand their businesses, and build a community while supporting themselves. And one of the things, Mr. Broadie, I think that's so great about what you've done since you took over at Santa Fe is you were very focused not on the traditional array of available degrees like associate's degrees, bachelor degrees, but you were focused also on reskilling and upskilling opportunities. And I think that you stated that you have been working with older Floridians to receive credentialing and even other skills to enter back into the workforce. What do you, just quickly, what is the primary motivating factor of those that are seeking to do that at Santa Fe in their senior years?
The majority of them is a second career, and it's primarily focused on income, sustaining themselves financially. Many of we launched a CDL program. 46% of the participants were age 50 and older. And it was short term, so they don't want to necessarily spend 2 years getting an associate's degree. They want to do something short term that provides a financial stability for themselves.
And I noticed that I don't know that you talked about this in your testimony, but in your biography, you talked about offering scholarships for short-term credentialing. Are those also available for older Floridians?
Yes, the ACB program that I spoke about is open to all individuals that are unemployed and underemployed, but that is fully funded by philanthropic dollars, and the majority of participants in there are older adults.
And I want to commend you for thinking outside the traditional educational opportunities at our state colleges and community colleges, even our universities. I think for so long we have thought about college meaning one thing and trade school or skills development meaning something else. But in reality, both are trying to skill people to enter into a workforce. And if we're entering into a time period, and I believe it's been banged into people's heads for so long that they should go to college to be successful, and we've got to unwind what that means. Success is actually getting a skill to be able to provide for your family and having purpose in your life. I love the colleges and institutions that are saying, okay, what are our workforce demands right now in our area or in our state? What are our companies and our businesses saying? We need this to thrive. We need this type of workforce, this skilled workforce. And I'm loving that colleges are thinking about, okay, if they need these skills, and if maybe these have been credentialed and maybe different type of certificate program or other type of program in the past, how can we blend that together with a college degree and earn credits towards an AA? Maybe they could start working right away and continue on and get a degree later if they want, but it goes towards that. Do you find that that's attractive not just to seniors, but also younger folks that maybe really have that pull to go to a college or a community college or even a university, but yet want to start working and want to get a trade and maybe do both at the same time?
That is very attractive, and one of the things that we strategically do is we work very closely, you mentioned it, with business and industry, and we develop programs that are matched to the needs of business and industry, and then we create these stackable opportunities where you can get a jump start, you can get out into the workforce, and then you can come back to us and finish your degree.
Do it while you're in the workforce. While you're in the workforce, right?
Yes.
I want to commend you for that. I noticed with your background and your initiative since you took over, of course you're thinking outside the box in the great free state of Florida. That's what we do. That's why we're the #1 college and university system in the nation. But I really do think we have to start thinking about that for all of our colleges and universities. If kids are drawn, and seniors, really any stage of life, are drawn to an educational institution but want to get a valuable trade and skill to work, how can we start blending those? And I really commend you for taking that step and making that available in the great city of Gainesville, Florida. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Moody. Now I'll turn it over to Ranking Member Gillibrand.
Thank you very much. So I want to talk about the funding freeze for the CSEP program. Since this hearing was originally scheduled for July, the CSEP program has experienced a 4.5-month delay in federal funding. This funding lapse was devastating, not only for CSEP staff, but also for program participants who saw CSEP as the last hope to rejoin the workforce. As we heard earlier, for one older adult, this funding lapse cost them their home. This year, billions in federal funding have been delayed, withheld, and sometimes canceled completely. The pain this causes is not abstract. It hurts real people, and especially the most vulnerable. Mrs. Osasu, can you please talk about the impact of this funding lapse on your program and the older adults it serves, and can you also elaborate on why this shouldn't happen again?
Thank you, Ranking Member Gillibrand. The harm of the funding pause cannot be overstated. The delay stripped away hope from a people that were already very fragile. And in most cases, CSEP was the first employment opportunity that had said yes to them in a very long time, in a long string of no's. And when something like that happens, the harm is immediate. As you know, this meant homelessness for some. Others, it meant rationing their medication One woman told me about how she was splitting her pills and taking one here and one there instead of taking the recommended amount because she didn't have funding any longer. It also took a mental toll on my participants who, many of them shared their suicidal ideation, their total loss of hope. They didn't know what was going to happen. This was their connection to the community. This was their income. This informed every section of their life. And although the funds were eventually released, the damage was already done. Restoring funding didn't magically make their homelessness now go away. It didn't cure the harm of that profound loss of hope, and it should have never happened. Programs like CSEP are not luxuries. They're investments in vulnerable populations and older adults and investments into our community. And when the funding is paused for any of these necessary programs, the price is paid in human suffering. And once the damage is done, there are no quick fixes.
In combating homelessness, this past July, after sending a letter to the Department of Labor demanding the administration release the CSEP funding, I held a listening session and heard from over 70 older adults about the impact of the CSEP funding pause on their careers and daily lives. During this listening session, people talked about the incredible purpose CSEP gave them, as well as the tangible impact it had on their financial health. CSEP serves people who have faced the most pressing lifelong barriers to savings and employment. Can you share any other stories about the CSEP, that CSEP has helped people, and what ways it made a difference in lifting them out of their dire circumstances and specifically combating homelessness?
Thank you, Ranking Member Gillibrand, for the question. The first person that comes to mind for me is a woman that I met in a rural mountain county in North Georgia. When we first spoke, she was living in a tent on a mountainside. She was clearly embarrassed of her situation. She was bathing in perfume, doing the best she could to present herself in a favorable light despite her situation. She was ashamed. She told me how embarrassed she was to talk to her children. It put this void in her life. She wasn't proud of herself and what was going on. And CSEP, we partnered with her. We worked step by step to untangle these complex problems that people in poverty have. And through her CSEP job training program, we were able to first find her a host agency where she could receive that paid job training. She began training as a receptionist. And then we found her a room share situation, so she had a place to live. So it was just kind of each little piece at a time, and that's what we do in CSEP is we identify their barriers, we make a personalized job training plan, and it has to address all of those issues because you can't have a person get a job if they are homeless, if they are not showering, if there's a transportation issue. Transportation came up as well. Her truck broke down. We worked with the host agency to be able to get her a bus ticket so that she could get back and forth where she needed to go. And if you met that woman today, you would have no idea that she was living on a mountainside in North Georgia with these type of problems because she was able to rebuild her life, but she needed the extra help. She was never going to do it on her own. She needed a social worker to work through each of those individual issues.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Senator Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member. Thank our witnesses. Now, I'm going to go a little bit different way because I'm not much of a politician. And I'm a new kid on the block here that's got a lot of white hair and maybe a little bit of wisdom, but a whole lot of white hair. Let me just say just this. If you could just think about this, in the state of West Virginia, where I'm from, there's lots and lots and lots of seniors with lots and lots of challenges. And we all know that and everything. A lot of these seniors are not quietly going into being seniors. And they absolutely desire so much, but absolutely we some way, somehow have gotten completely away from it in my book. You see, I think they want hope, and they want belief, and they want interaction, and they want goodness with young people. They have an ability to contribute that's off the chart. We need to quit teaching them how to play shuffleboard, or teaching them how to knit, or teaching them how to be together with one another. They don't want to be with other seniors. For God's sakes, a living, they want to be with kids. They want to be, believe it or not, with baby dog. They want to be absolutely with a purpose, with a challenge. I wish to goodness we'd rename them. Instead of calling them seniors, we'd call them wisdom. Because really and truly, why should they be labeled? Oh, those are just seniors. You know, they're very limited in what they can do. Well, I don't believe that. I've never believed that. They could give us so much, it is unbelievable. And in so many situations, we just back away. And then we struggle with all the different challenges that they may have, and they surely do have. So many obstacles. They're forgotten in too many ways. And we absolutely should remember that forevermore. Again, all you witnesses are fantastic. And I salute the great job you do in every way. You know, I've seen Brother John in action, you know, and I commend you beyond belief, because you're doing something where you're stepping up. You're stepping up after you're phenomenally, you know, successful in every way. But then you're giving back, and you're stepping up, and you're getting so many people involved, it's unbelievable. You know, I'd just like to just say this. First of all, thank you to all. John, especially thank you to you. And let me just ask just this. In West Virginia, we're growing in hospitality like crazy. Tourism is exploding in lots of different ways. You need workers. You need absolute workers. You love to have skilled workers. You love to have people that are genuinely concerned and value the job. You know, my question would be just really simple. You know, how have you found and filled those positions? How absolutely can you tell us how you can work through the wickets on the workforce gaps? And can you tell us just how strong the contributors are when you get the right folks of our wisdom, not our seniors, on day one?
Thank you for the question, Senator Justice. A quick story on what you said. Years ago, when I was young and not as wise as I am today, I had a senior mentor who walked with a walker. And we would take walks together from place to place, and I would ask questions, and he would mentor me during these walks. And as a young individual, I got so frustrated by the pace of his walking until one day I realized, wait a minute, the slower he walks, the more questions I can ask, the more time I have to interact. And I learned to appreciate that slow walk. And the benefit I had once had that realization was very powerful to me. You know, another story, sir, if I can. I owned a restaurant years ago that was losing a lot of money. And I had tried a number of managers. And in my industry, finding management and human resources has been a challenge for us for many years. There was a gentleman who retired as an auto mechanic. He was almost 70 years old. He couldn't work with his hands anymore like he used to. But you know, he knew supply, he knew training, he knew running a business, he knew customer service. I gave this man the keys to my restaurant. From losing over $200,000 a year, I started making about $300,000 a year in almost no time. The employees loved him. He elevated the team. He was a person of respect, of integrity. And I share that there's a whole bunch of seniors that are impacted, and the relationship of SBA to the mission of this committee is important too. As I travel across the country, I've helped thousands of small businesses in almost every state of our union, every demographic, every market type you can imagine. And the connectivity to seniors and small business is a powerful one. And when I look at the cost of living impact today, post-pandemic impacts today, you know, the SBA and the mission of this committee could be linked better. You know, I look at how the SEC, for example, doesn't allow an unaccredited investor to put everything on a line and lose everything they own. But yet in a business environment, in an SBA environment, that can happen. So I just want to reiterate that there's an opportunity to cross-train, cross-utilize seniors that isn't quite realized. And one last point, as one who consults to large corporations, many of them, and one who helps small businesses, my passion is the small business, it's a lot easier to place a senior in a smaller business than it is a major corporation. It just is. That's just the way it is today. And again, I suggest that SBA and a small business segment of America can help solve some of the problems that we have in aging. One more point, and then I'll be finished, Senator. When you hire a senior person for a community-based business, that older individual has hundreds of relationships in that marketplace that the young employee does not have. It's a marketing machine. It's a connective tissue to the community to drive revenues. When we think of the relationship power of the seniors, not only the experience, that's a powerful asset to a business. And I think we would be better served if we communicated these things to the marketplace better, in that people don't want to invest in a senior because they don't get the long-term benefit. But business is about short-term objectives to achieve long-term benefits, and those seniors can help with those short-term objectives in every case. I hope I answered your question, sir.
You did very well, sir, and I appreciate you. And let me say one more thing before we leave, and that's just this. Our chairman and our ranking member, they have done a marvelous job. You should really be really proud of all the good stuff you're doing. So I thank them too.
Thank you. You know, John, when my daughters worked at restaurants in high school, I went there a lot more.
Yep, that's exactly correct.
Yeah. So I can remember one of them. I really liked the restaurant, but once she stopped working there, it was just a little too far to go. So, but I went there every week when she worked there.
Yeah. You know, we talk about connectivity for seniors. When you work in a small business in the heart of a town, it increases that connectivity too, and that sense of purpose for sure.
Yeah, generally, there's some studies that number one reason people go to certain restaurants or bars, somebody remembers them. So.
No question, especially when they connect with you. You go back to see your buddy Joe.
Yeah. Dr. Broadie, many older Americans are eager to remain active in the workforce but need to update their skills. How can our colleges and universities, especially our community colleges, expand access to affordable and short-term programs tailored to seniors who want to reskill or pivot careers?
I think colleges need to be very intentional in working with the business and industry to determine where the gaps are and what the needs are, and then develop programs such as what we've done, programs that specifically target individuals and then train them for those skills. This way you get to places of 100% job placement, because the employers, the students are trained for exactly what the employers are looking for. It's been very successful at Santa Fe College, and it's very important that we are nimble and putting students into employment that the employers are looking for, putting them into degree programs and certificate programs that the employers are looking for.
All right. Yeah, you have to think of a student that finishes and there's no job where they, somebody, I mean, I think a lot of schools around the country have lied to them.
Yes.
And I remember when I was governor, I was talking to all these kids, and you tell them about these degrees. I said, is there even a job for that? So, So Rachel, you've written extensively about the economic value of work across all ages. What trends are you seeing in senior labor force participation, and what policies can encourage older Americans who want to start a business or keep working to do so?
One of the most positive trends, I think, has been the increase in the ability to work independently, whether you call that freelancing, gig work, independent contractor, but to be able to retire from the traditional 9-to-5 job, having to report to the boss on their time, and to be able to shift into this type of work. I've seen it in my grandfather and in both of my parents, and it's just a way to be able to remain engaged and yet to still have the freedom and the flexibility to maybe go care for grandparents, volunteering, just pursuing those things that you wanted to do in your golden years. And one statistic said that 29% of the baby boom professionals are freelancing in some capacity, and I think that's a great thing, but there are additional steps that could be taken to help make that more accessible, particularly measures that would allow those individuals to still be able to get the traditional workplace benefits. Healthcare is extremely important if you're not yet of Medicare age, but to be able to have access to that healthcare. And there's things like the Unlocking Benefits for Independent Workers Act that would allow those individuals to still contribute into a retirement account, still get that healthcare from an employer, even if they're only a contractor. Definitely clarifying the rule on who can and can't be an independent contractor through the Modern Worker Empowerment Act would help. And then your healthcare freedom accounts proposal would be a great way for individuals to be able to actually build savings up that they can use even in the future when they are on Medicare, but to have that money that could help them pay for the out-of-pocket costs.
Perfect. Christine, many of the communities you serve are rural or small towns. How does the, quote, aging with purpose conversation differ in those areas compared to urban ones, especially in terms of civic engagement, job access, and social connections?
Thank you, Chairman Scott. That's an excellent question. In the rural areas, we talk a lot about the digital divide. I'm sure you've all heard digital divide. And what we're really saying is if they don't have access to internet, if they don't have access to the training to utilize a computer, a smartphone, and so forth, they are suffering in this digital divide. And when we think about rural areas, there's going to be less opportunity just by virtue of there's less businesses for them to train at, less nonprofits for them to go gain skills, and so forth. So when we think about seniors in rural communities, we really think about that digital divide. And the way to address that, of course, is to ensure that everybody has access to internet. And then additionally, everyone has access to the training to utilize that internet. As I said, we implemented a job training program with tablets. You can't just hand a tablet and a keyboard to a senior and say, all right, you got internet, you got your tablet, you're ready to go. Now, there's a few steps after that that have to be taken. But once you take those steps, they can become data managers. That's a real story. I've seen that happen. Took a woman who had never used a computer, and 2 years later, she got a job as a data manager. So just a little investment goes a long way in those rural communities.
Yeah. John, what would you say to someone who is later in their stage of life and is interested in starting a business but feels it may be too late?
You know, I think that obviously there's mitigated risks, location, finances, revenue potential, and all of that. But you know, if I could tell another story, I was told that I'd never be on TV, Senator. I was told that I was too ugly and not good looking enough, it'll never happen. And one day I realized that I'm the only person who can say no to me. And they're the only person who can say no to them. So I would suggest that they say yes to that. And the other interesting thing I would say is if a senior is going to get into a small business today, it's a different economic environment. And sure, costs are higher. It isn't the cost that'll take you down. It's the inability to manage those costs that'll take a business down. It's management skills more than the actual economic environment that we live in. And I think any dollars invested in the programs that you're doing that provide budgetary management skills, supply side skills, marketing skills, all of these skills will allow us to thrive in almost any economic environment if we know how to manage those costs well. And I think a lot of that is education. You know, yesterday when I was speaking to minority member Gildebrand's team, we talked about 401ks for a couple of minutes and the power of 401ks. And I said something I had never quite thought about before. I see them smiling back there. You know, we talk about 401ks, but we never sell it. We never sell it. You know, we talk about the features of a 401k, but do we ever really talk about the benefits? For example, if you're 25 years old and you invest in a 401k, when you're 45 years old, you could be a millionaire. We never send those messages that...
Back where I was working, they never told me to do it.
So there's a pot of gold at the end of that.
They were going to have to put up some of the money.
Yep.
And economic incentive not to do it.
Well, I had my own employees and vote. Do they want a 401k program or a bonus at the end of the year? They voted for the bonus at the end of the year. But the fact is that's very short-sighted. My point is sometimes I think these things could be sold in a more motivating way to create greater participation.
Ranking Member Gillibrand.
Thank you. This is for all the witnesses. I just want you to talk a little bit about why working is so meaningful to our older adults. Older adults often experience decline in social relations and their sense of belonging, increasing the risk of isolation. The benefits of social interaction and sense of belonging include emotional health, physical health, enhanced cognitive function, increased longevity. Working can provide people with a strong sense of purpose and fosters a feeling of contributing something bigger than themselves, the development of proactive mindset, and building relationships and records of achievement. We saw this in my older employee, Jerry Shapiro. She retired in her 80s. She was the oldest federal employee in the whole federal government ever. And it's because she just loved serving the people of New York. And not only did she have a sense of purpose, but she was not only a mentor and a role model for all my junior staff, but they all relied on her for advice and guidance. And so she had a sense of family as well, being part of our team. So I'd love to hear from you about what experience you've seen in terms of work participation and opportunity impacting the lives of seniors, and what tangible societal and community benefits are derived from that activity. John, you can start, and then we can go across the dais.
You know, earlier today, the word hope was used. And, you know, when I find, I'm a little unique because I go into a struggling situation. They're in trouble when I walk in. Their houses are on the line. Their family future is on the line. Retirement dollars are at risk. It's a bad situation that I walk into. Hope is gone. And I find that if I educate without the hope, I'm not incentivizing progress. So I think one of the greatest opportunities we have is to instill hope in people, who, no matter what work we're all doing together. That hope is very motivating. Hope and skill goes a long way. One without the other doesn't travel quite as far. I'll tell you, Senator, when I work with these people and that hope appears, what happens is physical. How you see their posture, their activities change. I've done 283 episodes of Bar Rescue. And at the end of that episode, I always get a hug. But our microphones are on our chests, so nobody hears what's said to me when that hug happens. The things that are said is, John, I have a future again. John, I'm talking to my son again. I'm talking to my dad again. Boy, I can pay my bills. John, you saved my house. Everything they say isn't thank you for teaching me. It's almost thank you for giving me hope.
Thank you, and that's a great question. I'm gonna talk about, you mentioned mental engagement and you mentioned social isolation. When our seniors engage with our campus, I'll use one word, I see joy. And they get very excited. I see joy on both ends. I see it from the seniors that are engaging and the students that they're engaging with. The students are gaining wisdom from these individuals. We have an undergraduate research program, and we have our seniors come in and they get engaged with the students and helping them with their research and judging the research competitions. They are also engaged on our foundation boards. They're engaged on our advisory committees. Some of these individuals are retiring and they want to stay involved and they want to sit on our business advisory committee. And we're getting wisdom from their life experience. So we continue to engage our seniors, but they when they step on our campus and I chat with them, the word that I really can describe is joy. They feel fulfilled. They feel like they're giving back, and they truly are giving back to helping us thrive as an institution and helping our students thrive through mentorship and all the wisdom that they provide.
Yes, humans have an innate desire, I would call it a God-given desire, to be engaged in meaningful work and to be engaged in meaningful relationships. And there is so much value in that, and as Senator Justice said, just the wisdom that comes from older individuals. An inevitable thing about all of us is we're going to get older. To have those examples in our lives is so important. And I think that it would be, just seeing it more at every level, whether it's through volunteer work in the schools, just any ways that we can have that intergenerational engagement, everyone will be better for it.
Thank you for the question. Work gives people purpose, it gives them pride, it gives them a meaningful reason to leave the house in the morning and get dressed up again. You wouldn't believe how many seniors said the value in just getting dressed, what that means for them, how it transforms their day and their life. A senior comes to mind, and she's one of the first clients I ever worked with. Her name was Miss Anna. She was in her mid-70s, and she was training at a nonprofit thrift store. She was cleaning the glassware and creating the displays and that kind of business. And early on when I met her, when we were doing this job counseling, we identified some mental health issues, some paranoia and other things of that nature. And what we found is the more time she spent alone in her apartment, the worse it got. So when she was able to start job training and we had her there 5 days a week, of course, it didn't go away. It's not a cure-all, but work makes a meaningful difference for a person's mental health. So she began finding community within her work. That's where she made all of her friends. All of the customers knew her by name, and she just transformed into this smiley, happy person, one of the hardest workers I know. And at 76, she was hired on full-time, and she's still working now at 78, and everyone who shops there knows her for her bright personality, and all of that was made possible through the job training and getting a job.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Dr. Broadie, can you give me one story of a business relationship you have that's helped people get a job and a senior citizen get a job?
Association. And through that Builders Association, we train apprenticeships. I remember the last graduation that we had. There was an individual. It was in the electrical program. An individual that came across the stage. He said, "I'm retired, but I wasn't ready to retire, and I've always wanted to be an electrician. And through this apprenticeship, my dream has come true." And he was in his late 60s and walking across the stage, preparing to start his second career.
Oh, that's a good story.
Impressive.
Rachel, seniors contribute more than just through paid employment. Can you speak to the economic and social value of senior volunteerism, caregiving, and civic leadership, and how we might better recognize or support these contributions?
Yes, seniors have the highest volunteer rates across America, whether that's, in hospitals, is hospice assistants, in schools, at community organizations. And seniors also are caring a lot for grandchildren. Among seniors who have grandchildren under age 18, 20% of them say that they are caring for those grandchildren on a weekly basis, if not more than that. And so they're making these huge contributions, not just things that they're getting paid for, but those volunteer and caring activities as well.
When I was governor, I recruited all these people to move to Florida. And you feel sorry for some of these states because they built these businesses and they move and they take their charity dollars with them. They take their volunteer hours with them. They take all those things and they really make it, like where I live, they make a big difference.
Yep, and oftentimes when an individual is able to retire, they can still participate in that same activity, without charge. My mom is now working pro bono, serving as an advocate for children in the court systems, and so still engaged in the same thing she did before, but now able to do it on a volunteer basis.
Yeah, we've in our where I live in the high school training programs, it's a lot of seniors are in there teaching a lot of the trade now, so. Christine, do you have any intergenerational initiatives in your region where both seniors are working with young people?
I love the question. Seniors love to interact with young people. They love to interact with even babies and children, and we have tons of host agencies that have daycare initiatives and brother and sister type things, and both parties really benefit because I think there's bias on both sides. Seniors have biases about younger people have biases about seniors, but when they get to work together closely, they can skate through those biases and learn, wow, this person really has value, and it's a two-way street when they're working together in that capacity, and we love to see something like that, yes. Especially
if they've never met somebody that's similar to that person, whatever their characteristics are.
Right. They might not be used to seeing, a 75-year-old person doing something in their community in that way. And when they see that this person, wow, they still have a lot to offer, it's a different experience.
John, do you have any stories of seniors that helped you turn something around?
Yes, I'm going to throw another word into the mix if I can. I'm going to throw the word relevancy into the mix. Because, you know, I find when I give a senior relevancy, whether it's training relevancy, management relevancy, any type of responsibility that creates relevancy, a complete change in personality happens. That relevancy drives so much of their energy each day when they wake up. Imagine waking up in the morning and not having any relevancy to anyone. Nobody's expecting you to show up anywhere. Nobody's expecting you to do anything.
Nobody calls.
So working hard to provide that relevancy is a lot of what I do. So let's say it's a generational business and the son is taking over and the father is sort of retiring and he's sort of lost his purpose and the son has sort of lost his mentor. By creating relevancy for the father, I create engagement for the father, the learning opens up for the son, and that relevancy drives an awful lot if I focus on that one point.
Well, on behalf of Senator Gillibrand, I think this has been, you guys have all done a good job. I mean, we all know this is really important. So, and, you know, as people age, we've got to figure out how to keep them with purpose and help them. There's a lot of good programs at the state level, at the local level, not-for-profits, and federal level. We've got to make sure they're properly funded. So, you have anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay, I'd like to thank everyone for being here today and participating. Look forward to continuing to work with my colleagues to ensure every American senior has the opportunity they deserve to make their retirement years the best of their lives through continued community involvement, mentorship, and lifelong education. If any senators have additional questions for the witnesses or statements to be added, their hearing record will be open until next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Thanks, everybody.